What is up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're here for the Canadian Grand Prix episode number 49. One more and we're half a century in to this career mode series. Pretty crazy. But here we are for season 3 Canadian Grand Prix. Heading into this race, this is do or die for our major engine upgrade, and judging by the UI there, you can see that it did go on the car, thankfully, but a caveat to our upgrade, we have a bit of rain heading our way for the start of qualifying, maybe for the entirety of qualifying. I'm not too sure how the weather forecast will play out, but hopefully it can clear up. But lately we have been a little bit, I don't know, iffy in changeable conditions. The AI are very strong, but practice 1, we move on to that now, and that was as well very wet on intermediate tires as well, so I was very careful not to use too much of the tires. I only used one set of tires throughout practice 1 to save those for qualifying. AI teams didn't exactly have that concern, so hopefully it means that we have a better tire bank than them heading into the rest of the weekend. But we move on to the rest of practice, setting some competitive times, I suppose, on our way to nearly hitting the wall at the Wall of Champions, but we managed to get through unscathed and top FP2. So it looks like the the major upgrade to the engine power is making somewhat of a difference at this circuit here today. Kimi Räikkönen backing us up with a top 5 finish as well in P2. So heading into qualifying, confidence, I'd say, is very high.
Hello and welcome from the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, home to the Canadian Grand Prix, for today's qualifying session.
So here we are, qualifying then for the Canadian Grand Prix. Pace, it seems, looked very strong in the dry. I think we pretty much gave it everything nearly in practice. But now it is time to see what the AI can muster as well. It will be interesting to see how the car reacts to changeable conditions. We're not going to change the setup because the car... or the forecast for the race is going to be dry, and I feel like 4-6 wings, which is the downforce levels I've gone for, is probably the perfect balance in the dry. So we're going to play to the strengths of our car and not really chase a wet weather setup all too much. But I don't know, as we head out here in qualifying, track isn't that wet, to be honest. We checked on the Delta, and the difference between dry and wet tires was only 0.2 of a second. So the track is only, I don't know, lightly getting peppered by rain, and the intermediate tires, you would say, aren't exactly working optimally in these conditions. They're actually overheating somewhat, as you can see on the rear tires there, 92 degrees, left front, left rear and right rear. So I'm hoping that either way the track either dries up or it gets worse, because at the moment we're not really able to get the most out of the tires at this stage, and this actually plays into the strengths of the AI because they're able to push as if the conditions don't really affect them. So our pace at the moment is actually a bit terrible because of that, because the track isn't really in the optimal zone either way. And we're pressing on for a second lap, and we've overset the marks a little bit, spun out.
Are you all right?
And we're out of qualifying.
Engine off.
We are out of qualifying. We were literally a passenger. We had spun out, arrested the car to a stop, albeit with a bit of front wing damage, but then who was it? Someone came through and just absolutely collected us. One of the McLarens doesn't slow down at all and wipes us out. So we are out of qualifying for the Canadian Grand Prix. This is 2 races in a row where we have had terminal damage, this time in qualifying, and now we'll be starting from the back of the grid in this race. Let's have a look. Last place. So yeah. Wow. What a way to start this weekend when we have so much pace as well. This is just so typical of Ferrari. But ultimately, that was my mistake. So, yeah, what can you do? We'll be starting from last place. There's actually no need to take any new components because we're going to be fine till the end of the season. So, yeah. Let's see what we can do.
We're back once again beside the St. Lawrence River here in Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix. The event first moved to a variant of this track back in 1978. It was won by none other than Gilles Villeneuve, the first Canadian to ever win his home race, and in whose honour the circuit would be renamed. Anthony Davidson is alongside me as usual for the race today. Let's talk about Day. They're starting towards the back of the field today in a car that is fast. So they'll be disappointed, won't they?
They'll have a sinking feeling as they look up from the cockpit and realise they're in a different postcode to the start line for sure. But the one positive they can hold on to is that the car is quick and they can make their way through the field.
Exactly right. This isn't the end of the world. Thankfully, this is probably one of the most potent circuits on the entire calendar for, overtakes. So I'm not really worried about the starting position for this race. However, you don't want to be starting this far back. You don't want to get held up. We are falling behind in a championship race now, and we can't afford to drop too many more points. But here we are for this race. We're going to do the one stop, starting on mediums. Although the strategy on paper doesn't permit it, we will be going to the softs and finishing off the race on that compound of tyre to set the fastest lap on the way to maybe a top 5 finish. 5 red lights, and away we go for this Canadian Grand Prix. There's no point even talking about the start because you know that in career mode, you just forget about trying to get a good start up against the AI. So it is still last place pretty much for us as we tangle away with one of the Toro Rossos. Literally the back markers here. George Russell didn't have a great qualifying there in P17, so not a great outing of him there. But next up is Alex Albon. Let's see if we can get past him. Looks like we do that with relative ease, and we have disassociated ourselves with the back marker team in Formula 1 in this. What is a theoretical 2021? This is 2021 if this is season 3 of career mode, I think. 2019, 2020, yeah, 2021. My maths is correct, thankfully. And so let's hope that Max Verstappen or Ferrari still trying to chase for that world driver's title. Hopefully one of these entities will have one by then. You would hate to see Mercedes still dominating the sport by this stage, but anyway, we'll see. 2021 regulations has really thrown the cat amongst the pigeons now, with Alfa Romeo being the best car up there with Haas. So, I mean, if that was the case in real life, look out, that would be quite the incredible season. And who knows, Nico Hülkenberg could still be there in the future. He's probably most likely going to Haas in the future. But anyway, I need to stop waffling about real life and get back to the task at hand. We are overtaking Lando Norris on the run into turn 1. That is another spot for us, and we move up into P16. So, starting to get a wriggle on in this race. It seems to be just a little bit tricky to overtake cars, at least in this early stage when everyone is so bunched up. Everyone's getting slipstream and DRS off of each other. It kind of negates the advantage that we have in a straight line. But in saying that, we're still finding it relatively easy to overtake some of these lower midfield cars, and we now get past the second of the two McLarens and get ourselves up into P15. Max Verstappen is up next. What's he doing so far down the grid? I have no idea. That Red Bull has had a pretty sizable upgrade heading into this race. Or was it the last episode? I think it might have been last episode. But either way, Red Bull are making some solid strides with their car development, but very surprising to see that their main driver is so far down the order. Next up are the racing points. It's been a long time since I've said Force India, I think, so I should be getting a gold star on that one, but making some decent progress so far. Kimi Räikkönen started on the front row of the grid today, and he's managing to just about hold on to the lead Alfa Romeo Sauber, which I think is Lewis Hamilton at this point in the race. Magnussen, not a great exit out of the final chicane, and now we're going to make pretty quick work of him. Up into P12. Thank you very much. Next up is my former teammate, Daniel Ricciardo. So we'll see what we can manage up against him. We've got Magnussen now coming back at us after a nice exit on the kind of back straight there with DRS. That seems to be a really strong section of the track for the AI. They get a really nice exit out of that slow, long right-hander. And it makes us very vulnerable, it seems. Around the outside of Daniel Ricciardo at the final chicane. Don't mind if I do. I think we'll need to get a replay of that one because that was very, very tight between the two of us. Ricciardo defensive. I decided to turn in anyway, and thankfully Ricciardo left the space. So Ricciardo has had 2 seasons now to get used to my bullish driving style, and he gets well out of the way for us and we move up into P11. That was, I almost wasn't expecting to get through there. I was being very aggressive, very forceful, and thankfully my aggression has paid off. Bottas is next. Again, AI not getting a great exit out of the final chicane. This is a corner where we're really strong up against the AI. We're able to really change direction quite nicely. We made some setup improvements from this race to Monaco. It's a completely different setup anyway, but we've reverted to pretty much what we know with the camber settings. So it seems like the low speed rotation is way better than what it was last time out. And we're not really suffering with those temperature issues either, which is nice to see, and it's allowing us to push that much harder. Up the inside of Gasly now into turn 1. Don't mind if I do. We're now getting ourselves well inside the top 10 with quite a few of these guys on soft compound tyres. So the advantage of pace that we're going to have now is going to come quite to the fore now as these guys' tyres start to die off. The two Williams finding a way heading into turn 1. Let's see if we can find an avenue around one of these guys. Looks like Sergio might have a better run than I anticipated him to get. But no, he sticks in behind Leclerc in P7. So, yeah, it looks like I'm getting stuck behind these two Williams cars, unfortunately. Leclerc pulls off to the side. He's got a reliability problem. For a second, I thought maybe he was letting his teammate through for team orders, but no, he let me through, so that was very confusing. But he's out of the race now. We get past the other Williams, and now we saw our way into P6. That's a very hot entry into the final chicane, but we managed to get through there without any damage, and we press on well inside the top 10 now. So not a good couple of seconds there for Williams, seeing their race crumble apart a little bit. But now you can see the leaders are in, including my teammates, going on to medium tyres, which I hope that he's going to finish off this race with Haas's in as well. Lewis Hamilton carries on the extra lap doing the overcut, which might potentially work here in Canada. It has been the case that overcut does work. Let's see if it works for him on this occasion. It looks like he will just about get in front of us. The fast lane is, well, the whole pit stop phase is deceptively fast for the AI, and you think you might get in front of someone, but then magically they emerge in front of you as you approach turn 2. But anyway, we lose a spot to Hamilton. Not permanently though. We were never in contention for the race win anyway. Looks like we're going to lose a spot to Lucas Weber as well, as he's on his fresh medium tyres. At this point, we're just trying to stretch our tyres till lap 20, and then we'll put on the softs to run to the end of the race. Bear in mind that the leaders were able to take their softs 15 laps into this race, so we should easily be able to do 15 laps to finish off this race, especially given that we've got all of the tyre wear upgrades applied to this car. Pit stop time, and it's onto the softs. A very long first stint, obviously, giving a lot of our rivals the undercut, and so we have been jumped by a few rivals. Now back in the mix with Renault once again, so we'll have to chase down Renault. We'll have to get past Sebastian Vettel and also the two Williams as well, I believe, in order to get back inside the top 5. But now we're on the preferred tyre as we dive up the inside of Gasly. Vettel dives into the pit lane, which creates a mass amount of confusion for me. It's very easy to miss your braking zone when oh my god, I'm dying. I'm sorry, I was sick last week and I'm still recovering. But it's very easy to completely stuff up your braking zone when that happens. But thankfully, we weren't really relying on Vettel too much for our braking reference, I suppose. My braking references are kind of set in stone. I brake in, I look at references on the track as opposed to other drivers for when to brake. So that wasn't an issue for me. But lap 27 now, we're on the back of Devon Butler. We're going to fake outside, go inside, and take P6 once again. So the pace advantage at this stage is pretty insane. I think the delta is about a second from medium to soft. However, that will be a diminishing delta as our tyres wear out much faster than those on the mediums. It might get to a point later on in the race where the softs are slower than the mediums. So we'll need to clear Perez and then hope to build a bit of a gap between the two of us, and then see where we're at towards the end of the race. But Raikkonen is a long way up the road now as we get past Perez and into the top 5. So I'd imagine that this is going to be our best finishing position unless there's a safety car or further retirements. I think we're pretty much set in stone to get P5 in today's Grand Prix. I was hoping for maybe a podium if the pace was super insane, or if the others were going to do a 2-stop or conversely use the hard compound tyre. But it looks like everyone is pretty much clued up on their strategies today. They've all optimize the two better compounds and utilize the one-stop as well. So unfortunately, there was no real leg up for us to gain today in this Grand Prix. Might have been half a chance if Q2 wasn't rained out and, you know, some of the leaders had to start on soft compound tyres. They would have been a little bit more pressed to get to the end of the Grand Prix on their current tyre set, but it's, yeah, it meant that everyone's had an equal footing with strategy today, which has been interesting. Anyway, racing from the back of the grid. But meanwhile, you can see Sergio Perez has actually re-overtaken us on this 32nd lap. We managed to get past him by virtue of better straight line speed. Somehow we managed to get that move done. Even though he had DRS, he just overtook us after the detection zone. So we kind of missed out on that one. But it looks like we might just about hold on to this lead. Sergio got a nice run on us as we were trying to save a bit of fuel. We've recovered enough fuel now, and I feel like we might be fine to the end of the Grand Prix. Lewis wins the race. Lucas Weber was hot on his heels with only a few laps to go, but then he encountered some kind of car issue, which kind of set him back, but I think he's still going to get P2 in this race. It looks like it's going to be a side-by-side affair between myself and Sergio Perez, fighting over P5 right to the death of this last lap of this Canadian Grand Prix. Rivals on Season 1, and still we fight in Season 3.
Okay, good job, mate. Really well done. That was a fantastic drive.
Alfa Romeo have been winning fans the world over with their brilliant driving, showing that they're a force to be reckoned with out there on the track. They'll certainly be building on that fan base after today's excellent results.
But there we go. That is the end of the, not the Monaco Grand Prix. I have, you know, erased that race from my memory. You'll probably note that I didn't really say anything about the Lucas Weber incident last time out. I still accept a lot of the blame for that, of course, but in today's exchange with Weber, we didn't get in his way, really. He didn't really give us a chance to. He was that fast on the new tyres. But anyway, it is P5. I think that's a marvellous recovery, given that we started last in this race. Didn't take any new engine components. We didn't need to. We're going to be set till the end of the season now for components. Watch now as we need to take something, probably, but hopefully we don't. But that's a really solid race for us today. And along the way, we managed to get the fast lap, which was quite nice as well. So 11 points for our championship tally today. We re-overtake Charles Leclerc, who had a failure today, so really unfortunate for him. But we're falling a long way behind the championship now. So it looks like the title defense isn't working out too well in our favor. We really need to continue to upgrade this car. We're lacking in downforce, and there's nothing I can do about it right now. We're still waiting on the appropriate amount of points to come in. I think we did get the engine upgrade in today's episode, but we're still waiting for that ultimate drag reduction upgrade, which is scheduled to arrive for the next race in France. So as soon as we can get this keystone upgrade on the car, we can then move forward with some of the developments we've been meaning to make for the longest time now, and then we can start our title defense proper. But there we go, guys. That has been this episode today. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to see plenty more racing game content. Alfa Romeo and Haas finding a way tooth and nail in not only the on-track battles, but the development race as well. It's very interesting to see how things are developing for those guys. Speaking of development, we went for the ultimate engine upgrade, which is actually going towards the turbo PAL, and then the rest of the points are allocated to department quality control. So I'll spend the 700 points now, which hopefully means that this upgrade that is incoming will have a better chance of actually succeeding, because we really can't afford to push this upgrade back another week, because then it sets back the other upgrades further weeks. So the sooner we can get these on, the sooner we can come back at Alfa and Haas. This is going to be a tough championship. We are miles behind the top two teams. Not too bad up against Williams, but Haas and Alfa Romeo look ridiculously fast. So we need to pile on the upgrades and hope that we're close soon.